D&D PvP. That's what we're going to explore in this vlog. The idea of Dungeons & Dragons as a tool set. Dungeons & Dragons as a shared mythology. At this point, a shared mythology that whether we're players, Dungeon Master, we can sit down, step out of space and time, roll some dice, have some fun, create a story together. So within that rule set, I want to play all different types of adventures. I want you to explore different character classes. I want to try out roleplay, R-O-L-L. I want to try out roleplay, R-O-L-E. I want to do everything I possibly can with this D&D rule set. We see a similar idea in that different ways to play D&D, and I pushed this up to the channel, just a framework leading into this question here, PvP. You can play old school, theater of the mind. Everything happens in the mind. I've got my dice, my character sheet. Maybe I go real old school and it's loose leaf. I've got my set of non-virtual dice and some graph paper to map it out. Everything happens in the mind. We can go. A lot of D&D groups play, and certainly if there was kind of a, do I say a standard D&D, but a lot of D&D sessions, you'll have a dry erase map, you'll have some tiles, you'll have some miniatures or some hexes to play on, some figures, some tokens. We see this especially with capabilities of sharing screen and virtual D&D, remote D&D versus traditional tabletop. And then you can sometimes jump all the way in and do the Dwarven Forge and the miniatures and the smoke effects and the lighting and really kind of take D&D in that direction. And I play all types of D&D. So with that, going into PvP, let's try out an idea. I want to share with you a game that I've run a couple of times. It's the same adventure, so I've been able to build on it and refine it. It's only really good for a kind of a one-shot, fun diversion, have a little bit of fun. Let's see what we can do. So the first thing is we're going into this full PvP. You're starting out at level 5 because I found level 5 was, not that level 1 isn't exciting, but come on, you can only do so much. Level 5 gives you some tools, gives you some tech, gives you some talent, lets you do a couple of fun different things, gives you a little bit of gold to buy some items. As it gets higher, the players can do more, but then there's more Dungeon Master interaction or more interrupts, kind of save or die type stuff, where if it's PvP, someone feels out of control of their character. So about level 5. And I should say this is the current edition as of this vlog, D&D 5. AD&D, I scale it down a little bit because the levels are actually a little bit higher as you learn them. 3.5, we've done it a couple of times back in the day. That's a little bit lower also. But find that level. So we find that level, and the players for the game, I'm very upfront. Look, this is going to be PvP. We're going to break up into 2 teams. There's going to be a quest, but you both teams, both adventuring parties, both groups are going into this dungeon and you're going head to head. The idea is within the rule frame and the rule set to complete the mission, complete the quest, get out of there. You can do whatever you want to do. Kill the other players, grab the magic object and run. You have to know what you're getting into, right? This is going to be strict role play, R-O-L-L. And we're going to encourage some role play, R-O-L-E, but you know what you're getting into. No sad face if you get killed. So with that, you develop your character class, and I do set some limitations also. This is normally outside of my scope as a DM, right? As a DM, I am open personally. I want you to find your vision. I want you to find your voice. I want you to be passionate about your character, the avatar on the table. So I'm open to my players, any class, no restrictions, whatever you want to play, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to get you into the campaign world. I want you to get you excited about your character. Doing that PvP means it takes forever to resolve some things, and things can really get out of hand. So often for this PvP, I don't like it, but we want to get through the game. Restrictions, usually core player's handbook. Core player's handbook. We break up into teams. Ideally, the teams form ahead of time, right? Like a week before. Hey, here's the team you're on. Level 5, here's the gold. roll up your character, maybe talk what's going on, so you know what it is. The adventure itself is pretty straightforward. I mean, there's some role-playing elements, because it is D&D. There's a good mage and a bad mage, and I'm simplifying. I get into character and develop the background more with the adventure. Good mage, bad mage. Part of a mage's guild. Mages going against each other in the mage's guild, not good. All that magic blows up towers and disrupts commerce. So when there's a dispute, you have to settle it through a proxy. Two mages, good mage, bad mage, want a magic artifact. They're rivals. They don't really care about the artifact at all. They're so high up. It's really just a trinket. But it's bragging rights, whoever has it. So the dispute is, one mage says they discovered the artifact. The other mage says they discovered the artifact. Here we are. Both hire two groups to go into the dungeon. Whoever grabs the artifact and escapes the dungeon or wipes out the party to claim the artifact can return it to their benefactor, the mage, and that's where we win. So with this, that's the framework. Now, for this, if you've been following my other channel, Wargamer Fritz, I'm into wargaming, Battletech, Warhammer 40K, historicals, board games, painting miniatures, scenery. That often, just in my own experience as a DM, will carry over, sometimes a little bit too much, to D&D. I'll set up the Dwarven Forge. I'll set up the treasure piles. I'll furnish the dungeons. Miniatures are exactly WYSIWYG. Everything is exact. So I pull out the Dwarven Forge and I build a dungeon. In the center of the dungeon is the artifact. The players figure out one of four sides which they want to go in. They're all about equal, but there's multiple paths. It's not just like meet in the middle and brawl. You deploy, and now we start the game. Every game, and I have kind of a track to do this quickly, is two phases. The initiative phase, and then when things go to combat, before they go to combat or before there's a decision, there's a pause. We roll for initiative. For everybody, that's where you move. So it's literally two groups potentially moving at the same time. If you are on the same initiative track for your side, then you can decide who moves. So we're on the same team, adjusted. I get a 16 adjusted. You get a 16. We get to decide who moves first. So the players move through the dungeon. Now, the dungeon isn't baby cakes. There's traps. There's other monsters. When a monster activates, if it's discovered or it's an ambush, that monster gets injected into the initiative track. Now, for the sake of finishing the game, one of the things, if it's PvP, we're going to play about half a day immersed in this. We want to finish this adventure. We want to know who won. So the monsters I pick, it's not like here's 30 orcs charging you if it's level 5. I could do that. That's going to take forever. It's kind of novelty monsters, stuff to slow them down. Classic is I throw a roper in there, and the roper, this way it can hide because it's a dungeon, and there's different parts of the dungeon, cavern and caves and water aspects. This roper has a bunch of magic wands, wand of magic missiles, just kind of low-level annoying stuff. And even with its intelligence, it realized, well, these adventurers come into the dungeon, it eats the adventurers, but it notices that it has these wands that do different effects. And if it points the wand at the adventurer, sometimes it activates, sometimes it doesn't. That makes it easier to eat the adventurers. So I literally have a roper figure, one of the classic metal ropers, and I've modeled in some wands. On a side note, when I run this kind of roper variant in other D&D adventures, straight up regular adventures, I'm not going to name any names, my good friend, but it's always the rogue in the party who's like, wait, are the ropers using magic missiles? Who cares about that narrative? Every time it blasts ones off, we're losing gold pieces, right? Because they're thinking like, get the wand, sell it, get that gold, do this. So they're like, every round that goes by, the roper is blasting off 287 gold pieces worth of charges. We need to kill this thing immediately. So I have a couple of monsters, fun, different monsters, living statues, constructs, stuff like that. But ultimately, it's PvP. As it continues, as it goes. And the players can kind of navigate. Do they want to directly fight? How do they want to approach the artifact? As soon as there's first contact, PvP first contact, and at different points during the game, turning points, there will be a 5-minute break. So I've got this set up in the living room. In the dining room. 5-minute break, one team into the living room, one team into the family room. It's timed. You got 5 minutes to, in private, talk, tactics, figure out what you're going to do. If I haul, I've done this for conventions. If I haul it all and set it up at a convention, never to loss of players, then I'll do one in the morning, one at night, or morning, evening, night. If I'm motivated, I want to get in as many games as I can, get that D&D going. Then it's like, okay, go to one side of the hall and the other team, the other side of the hall. You got 5 minutes. That's it, to talk and strategize out. You can talk at the table and you can suggest what to do and work as a team. But I find it different pauses at different times to kind of collaborate and push from that perspective. It is PvP. It is players against players. Is this how D&D is meant to be played? I won't say yes, I won't say no. I mean, it's not my preference. I prefer the narrative. I prefer collaborating and story development and true role play. But again, I put this vlog out there because you want to challenge yourself as a DM. You want to try and run different stuff here and there just to get some ideas, explore things with different players. So from my perspective, this is a way that we can use D&D as a tool set. Okay, the final, not specific numbers, but on average, if I play D&D once a week as a player or as a DM, straight up tabletop, old school, physical, or virtual, maybe twice a year, either at the club or kind of some of the local D&D conventions, I'll run this PvP just to explore it because I've got all the miniatures. I've got the Dwarven Forge. I've got the lighting effects. I've got the treasure. I want to utilize it, right? I want to bring that effect in. So I say that as a frame where it's a one-off, couple of times a year at most. It's not the regular way that I explore D&D. So now I'm going to challenge you as a player or as a DM. We've got this thing called D&D. We've got the way that we regularly play it with your gaming group or club. What are some of those breakout ways? What are some of those different ways that we can explore and play D&D as a mythology, as a rule set?